It's come to my attention that nobody knows what they're talking about when it comes to Wonder Woman. Every single day I make the mistake of opening up social media and I'm shown some of the worst, most misguided, bad faith takes about the character against my will. And it always comes from someone who won't touch a Wonder Woman comic with a 39.5-foot pole. It is truly exhausting seeing how many misconceptions there are about one of the coolest women in all of fiction, and I have truly had enough. So, I've done the only thing I know how to, and that's stay up way too late reading and researching Wonder Woman to gather a list of the biggest misconceptions surrounding her character in order to set the record straight once and for all. I'll even give you a freebie right off the bat. Wonder Woman's real name is not Diana Prince. She is Diana of Themyscira. Diana Prince is just a secret identity she would use to fit in because of Themyscira doesn't exactly work on a birth certificate. But it's not some kind of dual identity in the sense of a Bruce Wayne / Batman kind of way. See, that wasn't so hard. You are already learning about Wonder Woman. But here's the thing. Before we can get into the rest of these misconceptions, I think it's very important to address why everyone has a different idea of what Wonder Woman represents. There's clearly a massive problem when a member of the comic book Mount Rushmore has so many people saying some truly delusional stuff, and those issues lie in adaptation. Wonder Woman has had a frustratingly few amount of adaptations, especially compared to her peers. Just look at this chart right here. The difference is egregious. By the way, still waiting for news on the animated series, James. All of this is made even worse considering that they are spread out across so many years that there isn't a well-defined status quo for the general public to grasp. Now, I might get crucified for saying this next part, but I also don't think we've had a Wonder Woman adaptation that truly did her justice. There is always something they managed to get wrong, like a piece of lore that gets changed for no reason or a fatal character flaw they give her. The 2017 Wonder Woman movie killed off almost every one of the old gods in an attempt to make this big gray mustache-twiddling villain seem more intimidating, which doesn't work at all, but especially when it all happens off screen. And due to that, it effectively kneecapped her world from the start, and that's not even getting into the messy origin they gave her. Then you got Wonder Woman 1984, and I mean, we all know how that one turned out. I can honestly just spend hours tearing into that mess. But right there are her two most important mainstream adaptations, and they severely dropped the ball. Then if you want to go back to the start, the Linda Carter series didn't explore nearly enough of her history, and even our beloved DCAU fumbled the origin and made her personality way too aggressive. For some baffling reason, people just can't get this icon right, and it has given way too many people the wrong opinion about her. Especially when it comes to something as foundational as her origin story. That should not be up for debate. Due to the fact that DC editorial had to try and reinvent the wheel, we've been stuck in this debate as to what her real origin is, so allow me to clear up this misconception. Let's start with her clay origin, because I think that is infinitely superior to the other. The Amazons are reincarnated souls of those who suffered an injustice at the hands of men. They were given a second lease on life in this new world created by the goddesses to offset the destruction men were causing in an attempt to project ideas of peace and justice across the globe. Diana's mother, Hippolyta, always felt this sense of yearning inside of her for a daughter, but was never able to do anything about it. As it turns out, in a past life, she was pregnant at the time of her death. A genuine tragedy that haunted her into the next life, but that sense of desperation inside of her led her to make Diana out of clay, and she was then brought to life by the goddesses as they fought back against the patriarchy. And also Hermes, he chipped in too. Love that guy. Because of that miracle from the gods, a baby that was never given the chance to live was reborn with this great destiny to heal the world. It's an immensely powerful moment that shows the Amazons aren't reliant on men and can make something wonderful on their own as she overcomes this feeling to mold their first baby in generations. From the very moment Diana is born, she's already being shaped by her past and represents a true miracle of life, pure and unburdened by any history as she's given more agency in her own story. I think the mark of a truly great origin story is when beauty is born out of tragedy, and you can't get much closer to that than this. It's also a fascinating twist on the Greek myth of Pandora. She was the first ever woman who was also made out of clay by Zeus as punishment for Prometheus stealing fire sent down from the heavens to unleash evil on the world. Good God, the Greeks could get misogynistic. That is an insane myth to tell. But it's why I think Wonder Woman's clay origin is not only impactful, but an inspired choice to flip that idea on its head. The Amazons were formed as an act of rebellion against Zeus, so the idea that Diana is born as this miracle and goes on to save the world is really beautiful to me. I think it would be a shame to miss out on something so emotionally resonant that stood the test of time for actual decades, all just for another origin that doesn't do much for her character. When DC went through one of its many countless reboots in the New 52, writer Brian Azzarello made the bold move of changing Wonder Woman's origin. Due to this change, it was then revealed that Diana was lied to about her clay creation and that her true nature was that of the daughter of Zeus. Her mother Hippolyta had a secret affair with the father of all gods and was so ashamed that she kept it a secret from her daughter. This was the first meaningful time in canon that Diana's origin had been distanced from the pure beauty of a female-centric story. It's clear I'm not exactly hiding my bias here because that origin does not work for her at all. Not only is it wildly out of character for someone like Hippolyta to get with Zeus, a monster she's seen firsthand and the antithesis of everything she supports, but it does nothing for Diana's character. It just creates unnecessary drama in the most important relationship of her life, all while taking away the Amazons' agency and muddying their tragic backstory. Instead of it being this generational miracle that Hippolyta made happen, it's a shameful secret that hurts their reputation. And trust me, there's a lot of that going around in the New 52, so this does not help. But most importantly, it ruins an empowering tale of feminism, all to place a man at the center of the story. Feminism is the core theme of Wonder Woman's character and her entire mythos, so the entire idea that the genesis of her story revolves around a man does not sit right with me. It feels to me that they wanted Wonder Woman to appeal to more men and tried to change her origin, and in doing so, they undid the principal foundation this character had been built on for decades. And for what? It didn't do anything for her in the long run, but forever damaged her perception from casual audiences. With how much DC went back and forth trying to decide which origin was canon, I totally understand where any confusion could come from with something like this. But when it's all explained out like that, I feel like it's pretty obvious which one is better when one of them is a beautiful tragedy and the other goes against literally everything Wonder Woman stands for. The 2017 movie takes things a step further and makes it worse by not only making her Zeus's daughter, but with how they make her the god killer. It's revealed that Diana was conceived to be a weapon against Ares when he grew too powerful, which, if I could be frank with you, I cannot stand. It has all the problems of the regular Zeus origin, along with turning her into a prophecy, once again removing her agency and putting her story on rails. But worst of all, it committed the biggest cardinal sin when it comes to characterizing Wonder Woman. They propagated the idea that she's a killer. Anyone who knows Wonder Woman will tell you firsthand that she's all about peace, but I see so many people try to paint her as this bloodthirsty warmonger. It's like people engage with her in the most surface level way and see that she's a Greek warrior, thinking that means she must love violence, despite the fact that her quest for peace is a subversion of those expectations. And a huge part of the Amazon's origin that any comic could tell you. As long as it's not from the New 52, I can't stress that enough. Going back to the beginning of her history, Diana's mission has always been teaching man's world the value of peace. She was raised on those values and couldn't sit idly by when the rest of the world was falling to ruin, stepping in to lead by example and show how non-violence can be the solution. Sure, she's absolutely killed before. It happened 5 issues into the definitive Wonder Woman run, but it's framed as an extreme last resort, not something she's happy to casually do. There's a panel I love that sums up her morals better than I ever could, so just let Wonder Woman tell you herself what she stands for, and not some dork on the internet. Don't kill if you can wound. Don't wound if you can subdue. Don't subdue if you can pacify, and don't raise your hand at all until you first extended it. Thank you, Gail Simone, for having a perfect understanding of her character and making this section so much easier to try and explain. Diana's utmost priority is always to reach out to try and offer support to those who need it, especially anyone causing trouble. She's a character who believes in rehabilitation and wants the best for everybody as a genuine and caring hero. She wants nothing more than to see everyone feel the same sense of love and community she had her entire life. But when that unfortunately doesn't always work, it's when she tries to pacify or subdue them to make sure they aren't a danger to themselves or others. It's only when there is literally no other option that she resorts to killing, but it's never something that she's proud of. Murder is a sign of failure to her and comes with the immense guilt of not being able to save that person. I cannot fathom for the life of me how people can read a character with that strong of a moral compass and walk away with the idea that she's fueled by violence. It's like they expect her to act like Kratos, which couldn't be further from the truth. Unfortunately though, due to the fact that not all comic books are created equal, it's led to now infamous moments outside of her own stories that have painted her in this unflattering light and have given the uninformed, an uninformed opinion of her character. I think the biggest single moment to contribute to this narrative is when she killed Maxwell Lord in the build-up to Infinite Crisis. And I mean, not just killed him, but she brutally snapped his neck, live and in living color. For starters, this was an editorial mandate. It's not something that came from a genuine place of creativity and and with the intentions of doing her character justice, rather a shocking moment that thrusts the narrative into motion. It goes without saying, but clearly I have to say it anyways nowadays. That's not how Diana always operates. Anytime she had killed someone before this was a monster or a demon. So what made this moment stand out was that it was her first and maybe only human kill ever. It was an extreme last resort and the only option she had in this scenario, but it's what came after that did the most damage. The weight of that kill isn't explored in the right way. Everybody gives her shit for doing that, continuing to paint her in this light and making her seem like a monster for killing a human. And since Infinite Crisis was such a big stage, a lot of people who didn't have much exposure to Wonder Woman stories had this impression of her as a killer and just ran with it. And we've all had to suffer the consequences of that ever since. Then you've got other panels like this, where Diana brags about killing her rogues gallery, which is most certainly not true. During the entire cursed reign of the New 52, she only ever killed Ares. You could count the amount of times she has killed on one hand and still have room to give that panel the middle finger. The misconception of bloodlust also stems from what you're soon to learn is the root of all evil, her messy adaptations. It's hard for comics to break out into the mainstream, so adaptations get all the spotlight. Then, when a popular medium portrays her as a killer, that's gonna stick in the public consciousness. Namely, it's stories like Injustice if I had to put one on blast. And boy, am I always happy to let loose on Injustice. Listen, I grew up with both of those games and know the story like the back of my hand, but I'm also self-aware enough to see the damage they did to countless DC characters. It was an Elseworlds story that exploded into the fighting game genre and got so many fresh eyes on heroes that otherwise wouldn't have seen them enough. And the problem with that is the Injustice universe decided to do some quick character assassination on Wonder Woman and turn her into an evil, violent, militaristic fascist who was the mastermind behind Superman's oppression. If I'm supposed to believe that the Injustice universe was spun out of the prime DC universe, then there is no way the Wonder Woman would ever act like that. It is an egregious stunt to pull and makes my blood boil looking back now that I know better. But so many people at the time, and still today, had no clue. Injustice went on to become one of the most popular DC stories and forever changed the public perception of her character for the worst, and I am just so tired of it, man. Even when it comes to the mainline continuity though, I see people acting as if the Amazons are a group of warrior women who dedicate their lives to violence. I feel like I'm losing my fucking mind seeing some of these takes because it's the same thing over and over and over again. First of all, way too often I see adaptations only portray the Amazons with a basic Greek aesthetic, but they are so much more than that. Their society has highly advanced technology that is leagues ahead of anything in man's world. It is truly Paradise Island. I would vacation there all the time if I knew how to talk to people. Mostly women. They are a highly developed culture that is multi-layered and not just a group of violent raiders. Bad comics portray these ideas incorrectly and give fans the wrong interpretation of these characters to run with. And then somehow, it always comes back around to the New 52. There were stories portraying the Amazons as man-hating murderers who assaulted people, but that is horribly inaccurate and anyone could tell you is an outlier in the Amazons' true history. It did Wonder Woman's entire mythos such an injustice. And I use injustice as an insult. If there's one thing I need you to take away from this video, it's that you shouldn't believe anything that comes from a New 52 Wonder Woman comic. We are still feeling the repercussions of that to this day. They don't reproduce with that tasteless method introduced in the New 52, because they don't reproduce at all. The Amazons are immortal beings who are reincarnated through the soul well I talked about earlier. They aren't bloodthirsty, and they sure as hell aren't hateful. All they want is equality for all. They don't inherently hate every man. They hate the system that was built by the people in power. The Amazons are all about loving their brethren. They just want peace and equality, guys. Long-lasting damage was done to a fascinating group of people as they are remade for the worse in the New 52. The main problem was that this cursed reboot came out around the time a lot of younger comic book fans like myself were getting into the medium and did so much damage with reinterpretations that missed the mark completely. What makes the Amazons such an interesting race in the canon world of DC is that aforementioned tragedy they were born out of. Their story is that of survival and prosperity in the face of man's world. To put it simply, they are victims. Immediately from the inspiration behind their reincarnation to right the wrongs of injustice against women, but even more than that is the fact that their entire existence has been defined by suffering. From the very beginning of man's creation, women were oppressed. Queen Hippolyta herself is the reincarnation of the first woman killed by male violence. Yeah, they got the origin of misogyny in Wonder Woman comics. A genuinely shocking way to open a comic, and a brutal read. Those ideas only grew as men began to conquer the world and follow the twisted teachings of Ares more and more. Humanity had completely lost sight of the gods' ways, and that is where the Amazons came in, as a course correction pitched by Greek goddesses to not only fix the imbalance, but to spread the good word of peace, love, justice, and equality. Which is why it hurts even more that Ares' influence had grown so strong that man's world immediately rejected them. People became jealous of their prosperity and spread nasty rumors against them, leading the Amazons to become outcasts. This isolation eventually made them grow bitter and ignore their purpose in the wake of their deflation. It was only after a horrifying attack by Hercules, fueled by Ares' hatred, that the Amazons realized how far they had fallen when they resorted to violence. As a punishment for that aggression and betraying the gods' wishes, the Amazons were then locked away on Themyscira in an endless timeout to get in touch with their purpose once again and guard a very dangerous doorway. Once again given another chance at life, creating this blooming society, but tragically locked away from the rest of the world. It's also an example of the patriarchal nature of the Greek pantheon, as the Amazons are punished for their transgressions, while man's world is still allowed to run unchecked and corrupt with this systemic oppression they have going on. It's why Diana leaving the island is so important, as she breaks free to spread the mission once again and makes sure the Amazons' loss wasn't made in vain. So to categorize this group of survivors, victims, and warriors as bloodthirsty and hateful people is beyond frustrating when that is the exact thing they stand against. And don't even get me started about the fact that they're giving Wonder Woman a sword and shield as her primary weapons. That is not helping the whole bloodthirsty allegations at all. Nowadays, they might be iconic parts of her design, but those are weapons, and weapons are synonymous with war. When a character is supposed to live by their crusade for peace and justice, I don't think giving them a sword is a great idea. The shield is much less offensive, but completely redundant. The bracelets already give Wonder Woman what she needs to block things, and in a much cooler way, might I add. I mean, Christ, they can block Omega beams. That is so much better than his shield, and she gets to hit this sick pose while doing it. For all the shit I rightfully give Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, this is some of the coolest stuff we have ever seen in live action. Replacing that with a shield is generic, boring, and sends a bad message when paired with the sword. It's why I always prefer to see her use the lasso of truth as her main weapon. It visually shows her intentions to pacify and subdue heading into every fight, attempting to tie her opponents up with a lasso that nobody can escape from, along with giving her something unique that sets her apart from literally every other superhero. You know what? Try and think of somebody else who uses a lasso. I dare you. And don't you dare say Catwoman. That is a whip. Just with her fists alone, it goes a long way to show how powerful Wonder Woman really is when she walks into a fight with nothing but her bare hands to do the talking for her, especially when she's reaching them out to connect with people, but also when she's body slamming people who don't want to play nice. That's very cool. That being said, the sword does work with Absolute Wonder Woman, mostly due to the fact that it is a masterful run so far and a brilliant reinvention, but primarily because Kelly Thompson knows how to characterize her. The sword is tied into her new origin in Hell, as she needed to be prepared for the worst, and that sometimes calls for a big-ass buster sword. It's also really hard to deny just how cool a massive sword looks for aura points. I completely respect them using that as a selling point because it did wonders for sales. But I think it mostly works because the lasso is still her primary weapon. The sword is only used when absolutely necessary, which rarely happens, and that is why she's a great Wonder Woman adaptation. She retains the core of the character better than anyone else in the Absolute universe, but has a fresh new coat of paint that makes it easy for new readers to hop into. I just hope people realize Diana's characterization here is exactly how she is when written correctly in the mainline comics. She's a beautifully naive and caring hero that looks up for the little guy and fights for peace. The only difference is that Absolute happens to use a little more magic, and she's got some incredibly cool looking tattoos. I love seeing Diana get this much praise in the mainstream with how good that run is, but I wish it would inspire people to read more Wonder Woman comics like I did. Yeah, so that's when I reveal how little ball I know. When I made my first Wonder Woman video a few months ago, I had only read Absolute at that time. Since then, I've been making an effort to read more Wonder Woman, and it's been great. Her corner of the universe is fascinating, and it has been so fun to relearn everything I thought I knew about this character. Especially when it comes to her power set, because god, does every adaptation do something different with it. I've never had the best understanding of Wonder Woman's full set of abilities, so this weeks-long research I've been living in has done wonders for my clarity, and also really ruined my sleep schedule, but I think that's a fair trade-off. Thankfully, this is one of the easier misconceptions to solve because the comics have remained pretty consistent over the years. Sure, there have been some major changes along the way, like the ability to fly. It's really weird to think that Wonder Woman couldn't fly at one point, but then you think about it for 2 more seconds and remember there was a reason the invisible jet was needed for a time. I know she doesn't technically need it anymore, but I do love seeing people try and justify its existence anytime it pops up when she could alternatively just fly. It does come in handy when transporting other people though, I will give her that. But you know, if she's not using it, I'd be happy to take it off her hands. As for her other abilities, I think this panel sums it up well. When Diana was reincarnated, the gods bestowed upon her abilities that would allow her to do these great things and made her more powerful than any Amazon who came before. The first was that of power and strength, gifted by Demeter. I don't need to explain this one, right? We all know how strength works. Strong, muscular woman does a big punch, more durable than a Nokia phone. It's all very simple. I would say the only hero stronger than her would be that of Superman, but she comes close. She definitely clears him on fighting skills and reaction time though. Next is that of great beauty and a loving heart from Aphrodite. First off, beauty thing, real as hell. Secondly, her loving heart is obviously a huge part of the character and defines her moral compass. Then, Athena granted her wisdom. Another easy one to follow. I don't know where all the confusion comes from. She's an incredibly smart and capable strategist who picks up new skills fast. Fun fact, she also speaks a ton of languages. This wiki page has listed Themysciran, English, Ancient and Modern Greek, French, Russian, Hindi, Spanish, Mandarin, and Portuguese, but I know damn well it extends past that. Following that, Artemis gave her the Eye of the Hunter and Unity with the Beast, which is basically a fancy way of saying she has enhanced senses like better sight and hearing. More importantly though, she's able to communicate with all animals. I don't know why this one isn't explored more because it's the coolest one, and basically makes her a Disney princess who can throw hands. She wants peace and prosperity for all living creatures. There is truly nobody more empathetic than her. Then Hestia comes in and grants her sisterhood with fire. Wait, I actually don't know what this one does. That it may open men's hearts to her. Let's see. Okay, so apparently this one is both metaphorical and literal, meaning that she's a beacon of truth, but also that she's literally immune to fire and can conjure it with the lasso. Damn, okay, that goes really hard. Why don't you just say that, Hestia? Then finally, Hermes acts as the token guy for this and gives her the aforementioned powers of speed and flight. Now you're all caught up. Or are you? Well, you might know her powers now. I think it's equally important that we talk about her weaknesses, because that is where the real misconception kicks in. Unless you're a character like Superman who has an extremely well-defined weakness, or someone like Batman who's literally just a guy, it's hard to gauge what a divine being like Wonder Woman is weak to. For the sake of my mental health, we're gonna ignore the fact that she would lose her powers anytime she was tied and bound by a man. That idea was nothing more than blatant misogyny and some writer's poorly disguised fetish. It went away after Crisis on Infinite Earths anyway, so let's just never speak about this again, okay? When it comes to her actual vulnerabilities, it's so goddamn inconsistent. Sometimes she'll be damaged by bullets and arrows, while other stories have them bouncing off of her like rain on an umbrella. And considering the fact that she's been around for over 80 years, it is very hard to track. When she's able to go toe-to-toe with someone like Superman and tank a punch from him, but get shot with a regular arrow, there's clearly something wrong with the power scaling. All that being said, it's hard to determine what her weaknesses should be, but I can say this. I don't think that bullets or arrows should pierce her skin. She's way above that, and we have to draw the line somewhere. If you want to compare her to someone else, look at Thor. You don't see bullets and arrows piercing him. That is how strong Wonder Woman should be at the very least. Plus, Diana is in a unique position because she's scaled relatively well for her adversaries. They're evenly matched because she's mostly fighting gods, monsters, or magic users that are either just as strong as her or have a gimmick that can subdue her. So I don't think that Wonder Woman should have any real specific weakness. She should be portrayed as a powerful character that is only able to be stopped by even more powerful characters and the eventual oddball who pulls one over her using magic. That way, she still feels like a god among mortals whenever she's helping out with the Justice League, but struggles in her own stories against villains tailored to her. It's the best of both worlds and challenges the writers to come up with creative ways to test her, which is the mark of a good character. And more importantly, it leads to some sick, otherworldly fights with her rogues gallery, which she does have, by the way. Please don't let that panel from earlier fool you. Wonder Woman has a flourishing gallery of villains. It's another fallacy surrounding her that she doesn't have many good villains, but that is just another symptom of how little adaptations she's had. Yet another reason why we need that animated series now more than ever, James. I see so many people jump to the bizarre conclusion that she's got no good villains, but if you press them on their Wonder Woman knowledge, they fold immediately. Adaptations just aren't doing them justice, and when she does finally get one, they usually use the same two characters every time. Or, you know, get canceled for no reason. Don't think I forgot about that Monolith game, man. How could you monsters take that away from me? I swear to God, man, I know who canceled it, and I will kill I am so sorry. That had clearly been building up throughout the entire video. You know, no, actually, I'm not sorry. But let's get back to her villains. I don't think people realize how deep her rogues gallery runs. When I was researching this video, I kept discovering more and more characters that slipped my mind until I got this list we're gonna run through. And what's cool about Wonder Woman villains is that a lot of them act as a mirror to Diana in a way, indirectly tying them all together and exploring those themes heavily. Let me show you what I mean using Cheetah as an example, who I would consider her greatest adversary. While Diana was blessed by the gods, Cheetah was cursed by one misogynistic god, sending the two on opposite journeys and making a fantastic rivalry in the process. Then there's someone like Ares, her first rival and the antithesis of all she stands for as the god of war. It's a natural conflict that moves in unexpected directions as Diana is able to make a tyrant see the error of their ways. Cersei is a mirrored reflection of Diana's quest for truth as the greatest deceiver of them all, and a sorcerer able to level the playing field. And then there's Dr. Psycho, who's just extremely misogynistic. I can't stress enough just how much this guy hates women. He wakes up extra early just to do it, which makes it extremely satisfying when he gets his ass kicked. Veronica Cale is a self-made and ruthless businesswoman who thinks Wonder Woman is too naive to make any real everlasting change. Dr. Poison is a fascinating nightmare utilizing chemical warfare, which makes things a lot harder for Diana to punch. Then there's like 3 different Silver Swans who all have their own tragic backstories and make things challenging for someone as empathetic as Diana. The Blue Snowman is a thief in a mech suit with a silly little hat that rejects femininity and finds themselves through it. And then Giganta is just so massive, which works because Diana is not. Boom, theming still works. The list goes on and on and on with so many other characters I could mention, but I think you get my point. Go read Wonder Woman comics for yourself and discover more villains to see what you've been missing out on. You will not regret it. Especially because it means you'll be able to learn more about her character for yourself, and then you can help clear up these misconceptions because God, is it exhausting to do this alone. For the sake of my sanity, I can't keep seeing more baffling takes about her from people who should know better. Even James Gunn, the patron saint of the comic book movie genre and one of my all-time favorite directors, has a misconstrued take on Diana's history. In a post on Threads of all places, Gunn said that many fans believe some aspect of a character is the only true version, usually dependent on when they first came upon the stories. Think yellow oval on Batman's chest, all-powerful Superman, Wonder Woman made from clay, and how that potentially diminishes our enjoyment of stories outside of what we expect. Yeah, I know it's been a few weeks, but it takes time to write and research these videos, okay? While I completely agree with the sentiment that people refuse to budge on one specific version of a character and it doesn't allow for reinvention or creativity, I think the examples he used to back that up are truly insane in context. Something as important as Wonder Woman's origin story should not be compared to something as trivial as Batman's logo. One defines an entire character, while the other hasn't been seen in live action since the 80s, and Batman has been just fine without it. That being said, I would like the yellow oval in the DCU. At this point, our only hope for the general public to understand Wonder Woman is the DCU's new take on her, so I really hope that in spite of Gunn's confusing comments, this upcoming movie and the Paradise Lost series does her and her mythos justice. I'm gonna start spiraling and foaming at the mouth soon with how many times I've said it, but please just read more Wonder Woman. It's the only way to fix this issue and make sure she gets the respect she deserves as a pillar of the superhero genre. If you're looking for some recommendations, the George Perez run is practically the Wonder Woman Bible at this point, so at the very least you should check that out. And then read Wonder Woman Historia for a deeper understanding of her origins. And you know, while you're at it, you may as well read Greg Rucka's run to see what could be the best modern day interpretation of her character. Or if you want to read, you know what, this is going to get overwhelming fast. I have a link in the description to an entire Wonder Woman reading guide put together by my official Wonder Woman consultant for this video and a member of the Shebang Gang Discord. Click the link in the description down below to join, Shinigami. So thank you to them for their help on this video, and I really encourage all of you to check out more of her books. Just skip out on anything that has a New 52 tag on it or is written by Tom King, and you are golden. Not only are you educating yourself on one of the most important superheroes of all time, but you're going to be enlightened by some of the most underappreciated comic runs of all time. And then from there, you can tell your friends about it, and then they tell their friends about it, and then they tell their friends about it, and they tell their friends about it, and oh god, I think I just accidentally invented a Wonder Woman pyramid scheme. Anyways, why don't you let me know down below any misconceptions you have on Wonder Woman, and maybe I'll make part 2. This video very quickly spiraled out of control, and I had to cut so many sections, so let me know if you'd want to see more of it. I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm gonna start mischaracterizing your favorite characters on purpose. Bruce Wayne is the mask and Batman is his true self. Yeah, it's not so nice now, is it? Is it?